Welcome back, everybody, to this week's episode of Maximum Octane. We are still broadcasting from Grapevine, Texas. So very exciting. Joining me, my colleagues and friends again, I have Jeff and Jason. And then we also have some special guests, so ATI rock stars there. Something Garlock from Silverlake and Ricky Jordan from Fit Gear. Dana's from Wisconsin, Ricky's from Texas, and today we are going to talk about growing people. And I just, before you went live, the stats just blew my mind. Dan, you have 2 openings and you have a staff of 72 right now.
Yep.
And Ricky, you have 5 openings with 60 positions. So I know that everybody in any business, especially automotive, want to know how in the heck are you doing that?
Well, for us, it's just been focus. I mean, we've focused and dedicated resources to making sure we stay staffed up. So a couple of years ago, we started the initiative of really focusing on moving from a hiring mindset to a recruiting mindset. And we brought on staff to be able to focus on recruiting people through where we thought they were the best people were hanging out. And that was LinkedIn. So we went hard at LinkedIn and focused our communication, our marketing for staff through LinkedIn. And had some pretty great response to that. But we also tried a number of other different things too. And you know, our people are our best referral system, and we get a lot of referrals through our own staff. So we make sure we make that advantageous for people to refer, not just financially, but also that they can work with their friends and have a great culture that they can hold their head up high too. But yeah, it was just an intentional process of trying some things, growing it, changing our mindset, and going, this isn't really a problem. We can solve this.
So that's something really easy to just make the switch from hiring to recruiting. So in your mind, what is the difference between the two?
Active versus passive. Hiring, you're waiting for that candidate to come through. Very passive versus actively going out and finding the person you want to work with and going, come check us out.
So when it comes to recruiting, what is one of the main things that you're looking for in, let's say, a high-level tech position?
High-level techs?
Yeah.
Well, you know, I don't think we really look for just the high-level techs. Those are probably the hardest ones to look for, to find, because they're pretty well taken care of. But we have found a lot of dealership technicians that have been around for a long time that are just kind of getting burned out. They're sick of being treated as a commodity and, you know, just another general number. And they want to be able to have the runway and path to be able to have a greater influence other than just working on cars. So we've created some roles and positions to be able to facilitate that. And, you know, you kind of pioneered a lot of that adding a little more runway on a technician's plate, right?
Yeah, we worked really hard on building in the infrastructure and our teams to have like mentors, so we could bring in younger staff and kind of take them through a journey. You know, with the current technician market where there's more retiring than there is coming into the market, you really are going to have to innovate and learn how to do more with less as we move forward. To touch on your comment a second ago about, you know, what are you looking for in high-level tech? You know, one thing we're pretty passionate about when we're looking for any position in our business, we really hire and fire on 3 basic principles: attitude, potential, and chemistry. Those are the 3 legs to the stool of working for Fit Gear that you have to fulfill. And if you're missing one of them, it really doesn't work. We really kind of shifted our focus of hiring people away from necessarily just a resume to really focusing on those 3 key attributes. Because for the most part, we have the infrastructure to facilitate the rest if your resume comes up a little bit short. But if you have the potential, the right attitude, and the chemistry with the team, we could pretty much make it work.
And how are you measuring that chemistry with teams?
Well, I mean, putting culture in focus is the biggest part. If you run your business on culture first, chemistry really matters in the day-to-day facilitation of everything that you do. Then we have the basic tools like Office 5 and such, but by making it a priority, quite frankly.
Could you give us like a real world example, either one of you guys?
Well, we struggle with the chemistry side too, because we also kind of adopt their model of attitude, chemistry, potential, and our guys. It's hard in an interview to measure chemistry, right?
Exactly.
So you have to do your best, right? And interview through and just see if is this somebody you really enjoy working with or not, or could see yourself enjoying, and then take a gamble and try it out, right? And more likely than not, your gut's going to be right on it, and trust your gut on it. We actually got a little sideways in our organization last year. We had a lot of positions open where we were always looking for that perfect fit, right? Because we had a lot of candidates coming through and during the recruiting efforts, and we were looking for this perfect fit. And I mean, we talked about it like you actually did it. You put your guys' resumes together and brought it to them and said, "Would you hire these guys?" And they said no, right? They wouldn't hire themselves. Criminals and all sorts of other things that were going on, and we didn't come from perfect ideal backgrounds either when we first started out. So that's where getting into the development side of it becomes key. Is right. Trust yourself, trust your leadership, trust your gut. Bring the people in, and then just constantly continue to measure it and validate it, and just cautiously move forward intentionally. So we really had to kind of unwind them, unpack them, and get our staff, our hiring team more comfortable with that mentality, and come alongside them and help them grow these people and help the chemistry fit. So
for the chemistry piece, what we see some shops doing now is though before they make the final hire, if everything goes as planned and they enjoy the conversation, they'll bring them to lunch and their significant other or to an event that the organization is having to kind of see. Do you do any of that?
We pretty much shifted the last portion of the hiring process to in-person working interviews, and really the test, the chemistry piece is just spend half a day with the team you'd be working with, and I'll get feedback from the team. And a lot of times they sniff out the problems. And I rather know that before they hire them than after the fact. So we've really tried to slow down the hiring process. And even if I have to facilitate it financially, like pay the guy to be there or something, I mean, the more time I can get my team to vet these people, I mean, what am I betting in an interview? Get right down to it. I can't shake a guy down in a couple conversations across my desk. So I'm a big believer is if they get past this general sniff test, get them to the team, let the team tell us what's going on.
We do offsite quarterly meetings. Like we rent the space similar to what Super Conference is, not that size, but we do dinner, and it's basically a recognition evening that we do quarterly. And we invite a lot of our key people that are what we call on the bench, just to keep them engaged and let them interact and kind of watch how they interact. But also one of the things that we did do, we got a little sideways with like, I don't know if you would take a porter out to dinner, right? Or out to, spend a lot of time doing that. I think you can over interview and actually scare a lot of candidates away. I mean, technicians don't want to be talked to like they're being interviewed for executive level roles. They're technicians. They want to know, can I make the place better? Can I earn? Can I bill at hours? And what does this feel like for them? So for us, a lot of it isn't about our comfort level when they come in. It's about theirs. Do they feel comfortable in the environment and letting them make the decision and have the opportunity to opt out themselves? So it actually prevents us from making a bad hiring decision. So this is a great less is more kind of environment here, and just let them spend time, make it genuine, and they'll tell you whether they think they're the right fit or not. And they probably know more than we do on that. So, but we've coached our guys to let them have the opportunity to opt out instead of you opting them out. And they probably have a better judge of that than you do.
That's a very good point.
I heard you say earlier that you had a culture of intention. I think that's the word you used, intentional. And I love that because everyone has a culture, right? Question is, was it developed in its own? Or as you mentioned, it was intentional. And I think listening to both of you talk about this, you're developing an intentional culture. You're creating a world where you're only letting people in that fit with the people that are already there. So when you're talking about how, I trust my staff, a lot of people listening may not trust their staff in the way you're talking about, but this was an evolution to get to that point. So I just want to point that out because I think that's kind of a disconnect when we talk about this with shops that haven't been through this.
We worked on that a lot in 2021. We really spent a lot of time working on our mission, vision, core values, and I know you did too. And our mission is Silverlake Auto exists to create to create opportunities for team members, create exceptional experiences for team members to thrive and guests to feel valued. So that becomes our filtering decision maker, right? For team members to thrive. And that it was listed first because we're an employee first company. So can we create an experience for people to thrive? And then ultimately our guests will feel valued at the end of that. So we talk about that a lot at the beginning of all of our meetings. We have it not just hanging on the walls, but it's a constant dialogue and a constant conversation. And when we're starting to make some decisions, we're bringing that to the forefront and go, are we serving the mission of the company by doing through this decision? So, we talk about it a lot. We talk about it every meeting. We talk about it all the time. It's printed all over the place. It's almost to the point that gets nauseating, but it really becomes clear for them in spirit about what they're trying to accomplish, and that we are an employee first organization, employee first company, and we've been charged to create exceptional experiences for people to thrive, for our team members to thrive. And if we get that right, more times than not, because it is that infinite game where we're always striving to get better at that. But if we get that right more than not, we're going to continue to succeed at hiring and recruiting.
So when you were taking your team, your internal customers, and saying, hey, we want you to be part of this and help us vet out people, make sure it's a good fit, what are some of the directives you gave them, what they're looking for?
Well, at the leadership level, we formally created a hiring team. So my direct reports from the senior leadership of the business were all on a hiring team. So we start every one of our leadership meetings with the current state of open positions, current interviews, current conversations, and need of the organization. And we got away from individual managers hiring only for their individual roles in their locations. It went to everyone's hiring for every location and shared the responsibility. So that was the main objective we pivoted to last year, that fundamentally changed our ability to hire people. Because when I got the whole team looking at the needs of the organization, you pitching yourself whole to yourself to just looking for one-off little people, one-off places. You get people on the bus and you find a seat for them later, in a way, like you can start moving people around. So that was a big help. And then, to talk about not trusting your teams a little bit, I don't know a better way to move the needle with people that don't have the emotional intelligence to make those types of hiring decisions than to start exposing them to the decision-making process. So if they have a low trust in your ability to bring people in the business, let them take a swing at it. So that was one of my objectives. Is
failure is a great teacher in this spot.
If you don't, if you're having a hard time getting along with someone, then I'm going to put you in the decision-making process and get your feedback. If you don't want to participate in that, then I really don't need your feedback anymore.
Right.
So
we use, very similar collaboration is key on this. And one of the tools that we use is a product called Team Tailor. It's a applicant tracking system. So all applicants funnel into that. And it's very similar as a job board, like you would see through any of the shop management systems, where you have, where are they in the process of interview? Are they, they applied, actively interviewing, second interview, whatnot. And everybody can see that. And you can see the interview notes, you can see their resumes, you can see their LinkedIn profiles, you can see absolutely everything. So there's a lot of collaboration there. So let's start tagging each other in that tool, going, hey, I think, Joe, I think this guy would be a great fit in your location. He lives up in your area. So in real time, they're starting to get notifications and collaborating, and then they're picking up the phone and calling each other and go, yeah, tell me about that. And then there's almost a handoff of, here's this applicant that came through that we think would be a great fit there. And it's just a continuation of the vetting process to try to find them the best home in our organization where they can fit. And we've had people that have come in and applied for service advisor positions that we've moved into other roles we actually, we just recently hired a facilities maintenance person. He applied for a sales role, but it was clear that this guy was a facilities person. So we actually had a spot open for the facility. So we moved him to that. The guy's thriving, living our mission at that point. So a lot of collaboration is key on this. One person in a room interviewing and vetting a person is really hard to get traction behind that because there's just too many. There's not enough voices in it. I think not enough people challenging you on whether this is a great candidate or not. So collaboration is key.
I just popping in my head, had a conversation with a 2-store shop a couple weeks ago, and their Rockstar service advisor now had also applied at their other store, and both stores. One store was like, absolutely not, we don't want her, and didn't hire her. And then the other store was like, saw the resume, saw the stuff, met with her, was like, this is an amazing person. She's doing phenomenal things. But if it was left to that one person, that they wouldn't have looked at her for the company. So I love that you have that mentality of people are hiring for the entire organization.
And if store one rejected her and there wasn't a clear continuation of the process, and store two hired her, there could be some organization resentment from that candidate that long term that may be really hard to develop people through, because there's a whole emotional side of the relationship.
Absolutely.
So it is extremely important that it's just, they get rejected after we all say that person gets rejected. And then it actually moves into we decide together to move somebody into rejection, unless it's just blatantly obvious.
This is kind of like what we were talking about earlier this morning. So we had where they have 2 locations and they're trying to operate them as one, right? So everything is going through it's like exactly how you guys are describing it, where you have to be talking about all of the players have to be in the same pool. And also, the whole, what we were talking about earlier was growing the people, right? So how are you guys, once we get somebody in the pipeline, how are we tracking their growth through the organization?
I mean, at the leadership level, at 5th year, we built the Leadership Academy. So we broke them into, we have the luxury of having like a formal training center and stuff like that. And
how many locations, just so everybody knows?
we have 5. And at our corporate office, we have a training facility, a training center, classroom. And we put a lot of work into building a curriculum of leadership at different levels. So we have a group called SLT, Senior Leadership Team, and TLT, Tactical Leadership Team, which TLT would be more of production leader, foreman level, people of influence, but not direct span of control, management, hire and fire. And then SLT, the Senior Leadership Team, which reports to me, runs TLT in a sense. They're the direct store managers, locational managers, general managers, directors, things like that. So building a formal curriculum and then getting them into a consistent training mode on a monthly basis, that was a huge step for us, because then we could start having one conversation around topics with everyone instead of trying to do individual training and having people at different levels all the time. And the message got really inconsistent, and it was heard differently from every person. And then the side effect of that, which I didn't really understand until it started happening, was the same thing that happens like in 20 groups. You get the peer-to-peer collaboration that really needle the most, quite frankly. So that boils down to just committing to a formal training process. You got to get away from the mindset of like, you got to let them do it during the day. You're going to sacrifice a little production to do it, but it's a big investment for the future.
Oh, thank you for saying that. We have so many conversations with people, and they're like, oh no, they have to go at night. They have to do it on their own time. And it's like, you have to invest. Jeff is always saying about you're a training company first. And then how many hours do you have a minimum requirement of X amount of training hours a year per person?
Yeah, we have so in their KGRs, it's 50 hours a year. At the leadership level, though, it far exceeds that just because of the access to training they get. But formally, it's 50 for every employee.
And that global training and all those things really a huge benefit of multiple locations that I think people get scared of, and they look at all the quote unquote problems of having multiple locations, and they don't look at the benefits of it, and having a training facility and singular training for everybody is one of them. What's your minimum training? Do you have a minimum over there?
Well, I think we have a target. I mean, we have a target of 40. We're not great at tracking it. I'm going to just be honest. This is one of our areas. Next year, our hope is that we come back to Super Conference and we can do a roundtable on competencies and developing people. That's our goal, because we're doing some build out right now through our HR department, and where there'll be a clear set of competencies for each, what we're calling a rung on the ladder, as you climb in the ladder. And there'll be some assessments that'll be done around that from from all over the place. But you know, people who want to develop, they're pretty resourceful, and they'll find it themselves, and they'll bring it to you, and they'll show you that they want to invest in themselves to better themselves, which obviously has a ripple effect to Silverlake Auto. Not everybody wants that, right? So we have to be careful with forcing our agendas on everybody. There are just certain people that I just want to be a really good B Tech right now. We need those too. So for us, it's not necessarily a mandate. It's an opportunity, in watching the behaviors of those who want to grow. They will show us when they want to grow, when they want to be invested in, and it creates a very comfortable space for us all to kind of be aligned in. So, you know, we recently had an employee that tons of potential. We saw this person was going to be, I mean, they were in a very, very basic, you know, lower level role, but the chemistry was right. And we tried dragging him to develop and grow, and we sent him out to New York to go to some ADOS classes, and came back from ADOS class and resigned. And I was like, whoa, what happened? And he just walked off the job one day and wasn't returning anybody's phone calls. And I actually reached out to him and go, what's going on? And he said, they're not listening to me. I said, what do you mean? He says, I've been telling them, I just want to be a porter. I just want to wash the cars. I want to do the hospitality, to pick up and delivery. But they keep telling me that I need to be doing ADOS. And if I'm not developing, I'm not worth it. I'm not worthy to work here. So he actually resigned. He took a position as a cashier at a gas station. And he just didn't have those big aspirations at this moment in his life. He had other things that he wanted to do and other agendas. We have to be really careful that we aren't putting our agenda in front of our employees' agenda. And when they do say, I'm happy, I'm comfortable, great, doors open whenever you're ready. We have tons of opportunities for you, instead of forcing it. So I'm really conscious of that right now at Silverlake Auto, is that we're not pushing our agendas, saying, if you are not doing 40 hours of training a year, you do not belong here, because I don't know if that's true for every position, every role, every employee at Silverlake Auto. So it's just being great facilitators of what they're trying to get on relationship.
So with that being said, and it's an excellent point, how do you handle the people that, because if you don't do any kind of improvement or revisit a class, you kind of go backwards, right? There's only so much you can stay at a level. And if you don't pay attention to the current things or whatever, so how do you balance that? Because that's a slippery slope, right? Of saying, how much training does this person need to stay where they are and stay current and relevant, versus to make them grow if they don't want to?
So to me, that's like how much influence they want to have. If you're not staying current or if you're not progressing, your level of influence at Silverlake Auto isn't going to grow either. So one side of your mouth can't be saying, I want to be part of these groups and these teams and help steer this type of thing, but then not do the training. So, there's trade-offs with that. So there isn't a lot of training that you need to continue to go back once you've learned how to do tires and oil changes, right? And so how much more do you need to continue to go for additional training to do that? But yet we have cars that need to have oil changes and tires replaced. So I think it really depends on their level of influence. Like our maintenance techs don't have a lot of influence over the organization as far as growth and trajectory where it's going. But if somebody wants to be an A tech, a master tech, a foreman, a shop manager, yeah, obviously, there needs to be a drastic investment on their part that needs to happen. I guess that answer?
Yeah.
I kind of got lost in the thought process as it was going on, but
well, I think Kim's point, and I don't put words in your mouth, but there should always be some level of growth, even if it's within your sphere of comfort and what you love to do, in this case, a porter.
But define growth then.
I think it's more like, I don't want to get stale, or I want to get stuck.
Who
Meaning
you as the boss, or you as the employee?
No, the employee. The employee.
So, what if they do? What if they just want to stay?
And to your point, their timing is good, right? You're waiting for the timing, and one day they might raise their hand and say, you know what, I think I want to do that. And that's great. I think what you said is fantastic. What I loved about what you guys have done is that, you said it earlier about being reactive versus proactive, is the reactive shop puts an ad out, crosses their fingers, and goes through that process, and they bring people in that aren't trained. And you've done the opposite of that. You use LinkedIn as the example. I'm sure you talked about the on-the-job interview as an example. I'm sure there's a lot of other ways to do it. Point is that once someone comes in from that way, they are more open. They want to expand. They're in a world where it just feels good, right? And so, that's it. And if I like this and I'm great at this and everyone's happy with me, great. And if not, then great too. And boy, wouldn't it be great if all shops felt that way? It's all that. And so the culture, it's interesting. What you said is, I want to ask you both this question. As this evolves, do we find ourselves less hiring from sources like LinkedIn and the staff itself is making that happen for you? Or is there still the outside influence coming in? More so. I mean, does it shift a little?
Well,
Is what I'm
the
asking.
majority of our new employees have come through our marketing department. It was a big mind shift for us to really understand that all the best practice we do to attract new customers is the exact same things you do to attract new employees. It's telling the same story, just kind of aiming at a slightly different audience. And especially with our outside sales model that's visiting so many shops out there, vast majority of my employees, I mean, I would say half of our staff came through the outside sales model that was looking for new customers that just brought employees along with it.
Did that grow from inside though, and cause these internal customers, if you will, to then help you find more of those same people?
They become ambassador.
Yeah.
Yep. I think that brings up a good point, right? A lot of organizations now are in this model where marketing runs everything, right? And people don't understand this, where you're creating your brand, you're creating your culture per se, right? Where everybody they feel like they're a part of this. They want their friends to also be a part of this. They want other people to be a part of this. And if we're not branding, you're not ever going to be able to have that outside sales model. If you're in your area, people know who Fifth Gear is. People know who Silverlake is. Most people don't get to that point because they're afraid of that marketing aspect.
Well, and I think that's Kevin. What I was going to answer to that is, this is marketing. I mean, all channels need to be working, right? All channels of marketing need to be working, whether it's referral from employees, acquisition through LinkedIn or whatever you're using for that, friends and family. I mean, trade schools, all channels need to be firing and they all need attention, because if you focus on one of those channels, eventually we're going to dry up our people, right? If we're just looking for referrals from our people. We went through that. Because we were having great success through that model, and we dried it up, and we were like, we have 10 positions open and we can't get any more techs. We leverage our people as much as we can. So all those channels need to be working together. You can't just focus on one when it comes to marketing. Otherwise, they move. So we spend a lot of time in the trade schools hiring young techs. We spend a lot of time on acquisition in LinkedIn and some of the other job sites, and then our people, so all those channels have to be working.
One thing I keep hearing you guys mention is LinkedIn. Most of the people that you talk to that own an auto repair shop, why would I go to LinkedIn? Like, you don't find automotive employees.
You always say that's for business professionals.
What was that word? Professional?
Yeah, I know. It's like,
you want to go to Craigslist.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But you don't want to go where the professionals are. You market where the people you want are hanging out. So if you're in a, you're talking about, modding cars.
Yeah.
I would imagine car shows is a great place to,
Cars and coffee.
right? Yeah.
Right.
Cars and coffee would be a great place to find those guys who want to go in and they want to throw an LS engine in a Volkswagen, right?
Exactly.
I mean, but I don't know if you find those on LinkedIn. But so you got to look at what's your business model, who are you trying to attract, where are they, and find all those channels and leverage them as far as you can leverage them. And we've tried LinkedIn. We've been pushing LinkedIn as far as we can, and that's where we find a lot of our salespeople. And the higher end, you talk about higher end technicians and higher end sales professionals, that's where they hang out.
it's just crazy.
So if I'm listening to this podcast right now, I might be thinking, boy, that sounds like a lot of work. What would you say to that person?
Money?
Just work.
It's a lot of money.
Well, is it money? Is it work?
Return.
Or is it both?
Well, do you want,
ROI.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
ROI, right? I mean,
completely agree.
Which part's a lot of work?
Just all of this sounds like a lot of time.
but
Interviewing
but
all
get
these
rid of the head
people.
trash of what is an open technician position cost you a week in gross profit?
And you said open technician?
Yeah.
Open position.
What does it cost
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
Seven, $8 grand a week. So let's say it costs you $8,000 a week and lost GPD, right? How many weeks does it take you to fill a position on average right now for somebody who's waiting for that to come through?
6 to 8 weeks.
Okay, so what's that? Multiply it. 8 times 8 is what? 64 grand.
Yeah.
So
And
how
we see
much?
as much as
64 grand for
Yeah.
2 months, 2 months of lost gross profit dollars that ultimately affects in that. Is it worth that investment of hard
And what if I hire someone I shouldn't have? What's that costing me?
and nothing?
Well,
Time, a little bit of time, a little bit of time, but guess what that's called?
Yeah.
Tuition.
Yep.
You learn.
Absolutely.
There's your 40, 50 hours of tuition.
The easy button
Don't
doesn't get you there.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you mentioned about what they're losing of not having one. And it's just crazy to me when I hear people say, well, talk about, grow your own, or, yes, you're not going to find the perfect person, but find somebody who can grow into it. Or, we can teach them if they have the attitude, if they have the want tos, you can teach them to be at any skill level that they want to. And I know, no, I don't have time to hire somebody that's on a tech yet. It's like,
But that's
But-
great. But that's great awareness, Kim. Because if you can't do it right and you are not willing to invest that time in there, you're 100% right. You should.
you should have, but why are you
The,
not
mind,
willing to
the
invest that
mindset's
time?
wrong because they're working in other areas. They're working on AI instead of actually working.
Oh, come on now. Oh, okay.
If I think about the average shop owner
That's-
that's probably listening to this podcast, is they became shop owners through the channel of either a service advisor or a tech. So they default to how they contribute to the business and one of those two roles. And in reality, that's the two easiest roles for them to delegate away to. And if their plan is to try to stay in those two roles and then go hire a head of HR, head recruiter, that's not going to work. You have to learn how to master this first to then go hand it off if you're a small store. Don't think that you're going to outsource building people and building recruitment and all this type of stuff. If you're a small business and you want to get good at this, and yeah, it's a lot of work, it starts at the top, it filters down. You cannot outsource this stuff in the beginning.
What was that you said? You said your training hours are posted on the front door.
Yes, right. I get a lot of flack for that.
Yeah, your training hours are posted on the front door. Yeah,
It shows how
That's awesome.
Right.
Jay, you just mentioned about how most people come into the industry, right? They're typically a technician or service advisor that said, I had enough of this crap. I could do this better. This person's an idiot and watch me go. But they forget that how someone had to teach them when they started, and they might be the best technician in the world, but they might be a terrible business owner or vice versa. But they forget when they came through the ranks, somebody had to give them a chance. Somebody had to train them. Somebody had to, and it's like, why do you just put that out and just expect them to come in at the level that you are after somebody else spent time mentoring you, right? Like it's just so crazy to me.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic because we're coming across this now as we're trying to scale, right? We're scaling at a very rapid growth. We're probably going to see 30 to 40% growth this year. How can we wait for development in a lot of cases? So, I mean, development takes time. Bringing in a technician apprentice and watching them go through, that's 4 or 5 years. So we can only take on so many what we would call development projects. There are just some people as we're scaling, as we're growing, that just need to make us better now. And we have to really be conscious and talk about being intentional. Where do we need to be better now? And where do we need to be better tomorrow? And then create a hiring strategy around that.
That has that stagger that you have.
That meets the goals of the organization, how it's growing, where it's getting, because employee development, doing it right, just takes time. You cannot fast forward that equation too much.
If you're a small shop owner and you really have the desire to start getting bigger, you are not going to fix cars better your way into making a bigger shop. Like, as the owner, you really are the
Can
owner.
we get a T-shirt with it? Just say that again.
That's poetic.
You'd be on a fortune cookie.
Not that again. As an owner, you are really the only one that has the luxury to focus on the two biggest limiting factors to scale a business, which is professional development and marketing. That's the two things that really only the business owner or maybe a high level leader can afford the time to do. So if you are spending your time on the counter or under a hood of a car, you are the limiting factor.
You can use Seattle marketing. Come on now.
You know what we're gonna do? We are gonna schedule one this week.
I think Dan really does want to talk about it.
We're gonna schedule
This
one.
is just, I'm just going at Mike Bennett a little bit. Just to,
Okay, so here's what we're
so
gonna
that was
do.
for you, Mike.
We're gonna have Mike Bennett, you and Jason, and you're welcome to join us. And then you guys can duke it out about
Oh my
AI
goodness.
and all of them, because TED Talks are gonna fix everything.
Yeah.
Now it's
Oh,
there.
man.
So there's a place for it.
Well, there's one thing I do want to say that you guys keep bringing up, right? Even if you're a small shop, big shop, doesn't matter, multi-shop. It really does come down to professional, right? So you have to have the right people in for the right spot. But that doesn't mean that you stop training. That doesn't mean you stop development projects. You still need those in certain areas, right? But it's just recognizing the need. And the biggest thing that you mentioned as a business owner, what you have the luxury to do is the marketing aspect. You have the luxury to create the culture that you want. And that's what's going to market your shop to get to wherever you want to get to. And people always forget that. So I just don't have the time to worry about marketing. I've got cars coming through the door.
Car count fixes a lot of problems in my world. So I'm always chasing the car count.
But that's an aspect, right? The marketing is going to bring that car count no matter what. But you still have to focus on that long term.
But
So
that was
my guess is when you're busy, you don't stop marketing and say, "Oh, we're not going to market right now. We're busy." And then-
But you said the word professionalism too. The professionalism starts with the business owner, the leader, right? If they are acting as professionals at their level, none of this happens. So you have to elevate yourself to also give enough room for the person underneath you to start elevating, and because you can't breathe the same oxygen. So if you're still working a counter as a shop owner, let somebody else come in there and breathe that oxygen for a little, and give them the tools that they need to partner up with them and support them, and let them try it and let them fail a little bit. I mean, that's how we could write books on failures in the last 10 years.
Fail faster, right? That's always how many
yeah.
locations? I'm sorry, I don't. 5. Look at okay. Fail fast.
They'll pass.
Gotta try things.
If you have to fail, I guess do it fast.
Yeah,
It
faster. Try things.
I call it tuition. I tell my guys, I like paying tuition. It means we're growing and it means we're progressing at a faster pace that we actually fail. Okay. But I also tell them I just want to pay for the class once. So.
Right.
That's big tuition.
We wrote an $8,000 tuition check today on when we screwed up, and so that was a great opportunity for us to bring some education around it. So hey, we'll get better off of it. We'll be all right.
Love that. That intuition. Well, that's that.
Yeah, this was great.
Really appreciate you both joining us, and even if you get bored this week with everything in Super Conference, to do another one. And so want to definitely just go around and final thoughts. And so Jeff, take the
Final
email,
thoughts.
leave our viewers with.
Yeah. And I think I just heard this from you, but I'm going to word it differently.
Of course you are.
If you keep focusing on fixing cars, you'll never fix your business. If you focus on fixing your business, you'll do a much better job fixing cars.
That's a long T-shirt.
It is. I liked this better.
I'm just excited to be a part of something like this. This was great. I love sharing. I love having these types of conversations. So for all the people out there listening, it's not as hard as it looks. Just do it. Just apply yourself. Listen to others. Surround yourself with great people. Don't be scared. Just do it.
Spend the time, spend the money.
Recruiting comes before hiring. You can't hire until you recruit. So get a recruiting mindset.
See, now that's a T-shirt.
Yeah.
Listen, take.
I didn't realize we were quoting t-shirts. But okay, I'll keep that in mind for next time.
Jason.
I guess my main takeaway would be that you guys have done a phenomenal job to get to where you're at now, right? But everybody started with a small shop, unless you bought a big shop. But for the most part, the people that got to where they're at now, they started with a small shop, and they spent that time elevating themselves before they were able to do much else.
Here's my takeaway. Everything, watching Jeff was about levitating off the sea with everything that both of these gentlemen were saying. you have to be intentional with everything you do, whether it's recruiting, hiring, your tuition checks you're paying, your leadership strategy. You have to go into this with intention, because if you keep just letting everything happen to you, you're going to be a victim your entire life. The business is never going to be what you want it to be, right? So intention and strategy is where it is. And I just love, and we didn't circle back to, but about emotional intelligence and people. And that's something that I think a lot of business owners and people in general understand, that people with a higher emotional intelligence raise the level of everyone else's. And it's so important to pay attention to those things. So thank you so much for this. And I hope you do come back this week. And I am definitely going to we're going to do one on AI.
It's not going to be about AI.
You stepped right into that.
We got to get a boxing ring going first.
All right. Thanks, everybody.